Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Irf and Merf show.
The Merf Irf show, actually. It's the
Okay.
Merf Irf show.
Well, today we've got the man from Del Monte here with us today.
Yeah. I got my summer suit on, you know. I'm all dressed in white, you know, like a
Personal
sort of
automatic model.
Panamanian drug lord, perhaps, you know.
Or a diplomat.
Or a diplomat. I prefer diplomat. I think that's more the vibe I'm going for, you know.
Yeah.
I even got the like woven fedora and everything.
Nice. I like it.
But
Sharp.
yeah, in today's episode we're discussing the Mafia, I think, aren't we? Yeah. Organised crime. But especially the Mafia, because they're the most interesting of the organised criminals. Because they got funny accents.
Now, we're going to be talking about this. We're not going to get into any trouble, are we?
Well, hopefully not. I mean, you know, if at the middle of the night a man in a full suit knocks on your door and he's got his hands in his pockets, you know, I wouldn't answer it.
It's a milkman.
I think we'll probably be all right. I think we're probably safe from any kneecapping
Okay.
or anything.
Good. So the Mafia. Why the Mafia?
Well, it's a very interesting topic. You know, there's it's interesting seeing where they come from, how they've grown to influence, seeing their fall. But the Mafia has been involved through the 20th century in probably most of the significant events in American history, especially American history, but also Italy, obviously, because they're all Italians.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, do you know how the Mafia came to power, how they came to prominence?
No, I don't.
So basically, after the First World War, a policy was implemented called Prohibition, which basically banned alcohol.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, to be fair, if you actually look at like the amount of like alcohol consumption, the rates of alcohol consumption in America at the time, it makes perfect sense. And I actually argue, and well, people disagree because of what we'll talk about later, but I actually argue Prohibition was actually a success because if you look at the rates of alcohol consumption before and after, it absolutely nosedives. And
that was Al Capone's era, wasn't it?
Well, this is what we're getting to.
Okay,
this is the thing.
I'm jumping
the gun.
Yeah.
That's going to be our catchphrase, I guess. But basically, it's a nation of alcoholics. Everyone's drinking a massive amount. I mean, the people who spearheaded the Prohibition movement were women. It was women. It was the wives of these men who were always coming home really drunk, and they were like, we got to stop our husbands drinking.
Yeah. So
they spearheaded that movement. But obviously, a nation of alcoholics, and all of a sudden you ban alcohol.
Wouldn't they be scared of their husbands? And
well, yeah, I mean, most were, but that's why they were doing this movement.
Sure.
And it was very intertwined with the feminist movement, the suffragettes and whatnot. But obviously, you ban alcohol in a nation of alcoholics, there becomes a market there for crime.
Yeah.
So you get what's called the bootleggers, and they traffic booze over from Canada, and they're all these. Well, because it's now it's there's the drugs coming in from Mexico, and that's obviously all run by the cartels because they're in Mexico. But in this case, it was all coming over from Canada, so from the northern border, and all those cities were run by Italian Americans, some Irish Americans. There was a Jewish mob as well, but basically the mafias. They weren't all Italian, but most of them were. And that's how you get the Mafia starts rising up, because they're just making so much money. And especially once the Great Depression hits, more people join the Mafia because it's the only way to make money, because no one else has any jobs. So it's like you're kind of forced to join the Mafia.
Are we looking at 1920s?
That's throughout the 20s, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Prohibition's repealed in, I believe, 33, although I'm not 100% on that. But it's early 30s, it gets repealed. But the Mafia never really lose their dominance. They never lose their power, because they've got it now. And they just move on to other things like arms trafficking and stuff like that. And a lot like turf wars. Racketeering's the big one, Racketeering's the big one. oh, it's a very nice house. Or what was it like? Say you've got like a butcher's, and it was a very nice butcher's you got here. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it.
Yeah.
And then they make you give
protection
money. Which is to protect yourself from the people that you're paying.
Yeah. Vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's in America, but they must have started from Italy.
So it's interesting because basically what originally happens is you get in Italy there's very much a north-south divide. But it's kind of like the reverse of what we've got here, where it's like the north is the very rich area and the south is really poor and agrarian.
Didn't the mafia start from farmers or?
So Sicily in particular, during the reign of the Bourbon monarchy, a time called the Kingdom of Two Sicilies.
Great biscuits.
Great biscuits, not very good rulers.
Yeah.
And Sicily was effectively an anarchy. There was no rule of law. It was an absolute shit show. And what happens is people sort of decide, okay, we've got to take this into our own hands. The mafia started as basically it's like a second government. Like it was all about protection and
an uprising.
Not an uprising, but like vigilante justice.
Okay.
There's lawlessness, there's loads of like crimes and whatever. So these people get together and they're like, okay, we're going to start like protecting people. And instead of like, this whole protection money thing started as basically taxes that weren't called taxes, and it was basically because there was so much crime and stuff, these groups would get together and they'd go to these businesses that were getting robbed every night, and they'd be like, okay, well, you pay us a small fee and we'll protect you, we'll genuinely protect you. It wasn't about like firebombing them if you don't pay them. It was about genuine protection, and that's where the mafia sort of comes from. And over time, when Italy gets unified into one single country, there's not really a need for that anymore. But the people running the mafia were making so much money out of it, they weren't just going to be like, okay, well, I guess we'll stop now. So then it becomes the more dodgy.
Got the taste of the
money. They got the money. And then there's massive emigration from America sort of over the years for a multitude of reasons. And a lot of Italians find themselves in New York, in Chicago, in Detroit, in Boston, and from there they start sort of, a lot of them were mafia men, and it's all they know how to do. So they sort of build their own families, build their own crime families, and that's how the mafia sort of moves from Sicily over to America.
Okay, so they moved to America, and when they moved over, when did Prohibition kick in? Prohibition
starts, it's either 1919 or 1920, after the First World War.
Yeah.
Basically right after the First World War.
Okay.
Because President Wilson is running on such a high from winning the First World War that he's able to basically do whatever he wants, and he'll still get it through.
Yeah.
So yeah, he brings in Prohibition because he personally believes in it.
Okay, so that comes in, and the mafia start bootlegging, as you said, and they start bringing in the booze from
Canada, mostly Canada, but also Europe.
Okay, mostly. And couldn't the police or anything stop this, or security?
They tried, but the problem with the police, because this was before the FBI was invented, and basically, what's the reason the FBI was invented? Because every police force was independent. Basically, you don't have this national police force; they're all doing their own thing, and because of that, there's no coordination. So it's very easy to just like go around them and stuff. And two, they were very susceptible to like bribery and corruption. Like it must have been like half of New York's police force was probably on the payroll of the bootleggers.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it probably wasn't half, but like that's probably hyperbole.
Large numbers.
Very large numbers, yeah.
Yeah. To sustain their success.
Yeah. And politicians as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time. And that went on for decades, politicians being in the hands of the police. But that's why the FBI, partially the reason why the FBI was even founded, because the government was like, okay, this isn't working. We need like a federal police force. We need a countrywide investigation unit.
Yeah, Edgar Hoover bring them in.
That's correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
Edgar Hoover. He was the first head of the FBI.
Yeah.
And that's what it was all about, was trying to prevent the bootlegging. But obviously, a few years after the FBI was founded, Prohibition ended, so bootlegging stopped being an issue anyway, and it became more about like turf wars and stuff.
Okay, now these turf wars or family wars, whatever, with the Mafia, yeah? Well, what significant families came to prominence, or...
Well, obviously everyone's heard of like Al Capone.
Yeah.
And like Bugsy Malone and stuff like that.
So Al Capone...
He was the Chicago outfit.
Okay.
And there was this organization set up, I think it was called the National Crime Syndicate, which was basically, it was like all the outfits, as they were called, which basically means just gangs, families, whatever, got together and they're like, okay, we're going to like coordinate like how we...
Like the FBI's most wanted list.
Yeah. And they all worked together. But the thing is the turf wars were mostly, so the Italians really didn't like the Irish gangs. Okay. Because Irish gangs started becoming a thing because there was such a high Irish American population, and they really didn't like the Jewish gangs, and the Jewish gangs were huge as well, which a lot of people don't know about. Is these Jewish gangs. So it was mostly like almost sectarian violence really between the Italians, the Irish, and the Jews, just all fighting each other constantly. And that's what that was mostly about. But this National Crime Syndicate, which was headed by Italians, you know, they got together and they were like, okay, let's work together, let's respect each other's boundaries and stuff, just to like mess up the Irish and the Jewish mafias. Yeah.
So they got together, and they must have been one hell of an outfit, dude.
Yeah. Oh, big time, big time.
And Al Capone, how did he get into this? Or because he's the most famous.
Yeah, I don't know how he got into it. He was, but his nickname was Scarface. Although if you called him that to his face, he'd kill you.
Yeah,
he hated that name.
Yeah.
Same with I forget what's his name, Babyface. I forget his real name now, but his nickname was Babyface. If you called him Babyface to his face, you're not going to survive the day. You know?
Yeah.
But they all had nicknames and stuff. But yeah, they were all they all worked together.
Yeah.
And then there's also you know, the rise of the sort of African American gangs started to come into conflict as well, because believe it or not, people in the 20s and 30s were very racist.
Yeah.
And
no, I wouldn't believe that.
Yeah. So when these black families started coming up, there was also a concerted effort to be like, okay, let's mess up these guys.
Yeah. So I keep on coming back to Al Capone. Have you got some stories about him, or what can you tell us about Al Capone?
Well, it's very interesting actually, because I believe, and I'm going off memory here, so I might have a few details wrong, but basically, like, he was the way they caught him, tax evasion. That's how they got him.
What?
Every single crime they tried to get him on, all the murders, the racketeering, whatever, they couldn't
prove.
They couldn't get him. He was too sort of insulated. I mean, he was a celebrity, and people loved him because he gave money back to the public. People loved him, and he bribed every judge, every police officer that ever tried anything. They had to set up this squad. It was called the Untouchables, and it was a group of policemen who could not be bribed.
Connery.
Yeah. Oh, they made a film about it. Yeah. But the way they end up getting him is they talk to the IRS and they audit him, and they got him on tax evasion. And that's the only crime he was ever charged for, was tax evasion.
How long did he go down for?
He went to Alcatraz from 38 to 46.
Wow.
So only less than 10 years.
Yeah.
Less than 10 years. But they still, I mean, like, by the time he got out, he was dying of syphilis.
Okay.
So it was no problem when they let him out, he'd like, all his influence had gone. Yeah. I think he lived out the rest of his days in like a retirement home in Florida or something.
Yeah. These films, what have portrayed, you know, Al Capone, are they sort of like true to life, or?
Well, it's obviously there's a bit of movie magic, as with any film, but most of them they pretty much got it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, most of these mafia films, like Goodfellas, that's a true story. I believe Casino is a true story.
Goodfellas, what a film, dude.
Oh, fantastic film.
I can watch that.
One of my favourite films.
Yeah, you can just get stuck into it
Yeah.
anytime.
Absolutely. Well, any Scorsese film. Really,
Yeah,
you know.
any Marty.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's a true story.
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah,
about
it
the
is.
John. No, who's it about? Who Ray Liotta plays?
I know who you're on about, but I've totally
Rest in
forgotten.
peace, man.
Yeah, he passed recently, right?
Yeah. I think Cocaine Bear was his last film.
Was he in that?
Yeah, he was in that.
Oh God, that's his last film.
Yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear.
But Goodfellas, man, it's just one epic film. You know, that was picked at the Post. It should have won the best film in '91, but didn't win an Oscar. Did he win an Oscar? What film?
I don't know.
Dances with Wolves.
Well, I don't even know what that is, so that says everything.
Kevin Costner, great
that
film.
That says everything.
But yeah, these mafia. Why are we obsessed by?
Well, first of all, it's
these
sort
criminal. I mean, everyone's obsessed,
of.
but in reality, they must be nasty pieces of work.
No, of course.
And they wouldn't think twice about, eliminating you.
Yeah. Well, it's partly. Well, it's the age of the celebrity gangster, where everyone knows him, and everyone knows it's a gangster, but but people love him because they're giving back to their community usually.
Yeah.
These mafias, they run the unions,
the
trade unions, like construction workers, Teamsters especially. That's why they killed Jimmy Hoffa, because Jimmy Hoffa ran the Teamsters, and they had a falling out, so they whacked him.
Yeah.
And we still don't know what happened to Jimmy Hoffa, actually. We don't know.
No.
He disappeared, and he's never been seen since.
Probably in the back of some butchers.
Yeah, he's probably like chopped to bits and like in the middle of nowhere or something underground. But we just don't know. He's just vanished.
Yeah.
Disappeared without a trace.
Yeah.
It's one of the great mysteries. But let's be honest, he was killed by the mafia.
Yeah.
That's the 99.999% probability is the mafia whacked him because he got on their bad side, which is what happens,
How strong are the mafia now?
They've fallen off, mostly because, I mean, you can't really have celebrity gangsters in this day and age.
Yeah.
Surveillance is much better. Forensic evidence is much easier to do. And especially in these northern cities, it's just like you get low level street crime, but you can't realistically do these massive syndicates and organizations. I mean, well, not in the public eye anyway. It's for all I know, it's still very, very strong, but we don't know about it. I mean, the last sort of gangster celebrity would be John Gotti. You heard of him?
Yeah.
He was sort of the last one. I think they got him maybe in the 90s or something.
Yeah.
But he was the last one. But until him, it was all the whole idea of the celebrity gangster, and they're seen of almost Robin Hood type characters. Very, very popular. And they used to run like front organizations. Like there was one called like the Italian American Justice League or something. It was something along those lines, which was about advancing Italian American rights.
Yeah.
Front for the mafia.
Yeah.
100%.
What about these drug dealers?
Well, they're all low level, aren't they?
What, someone like Pablo Escobar?
Oh, if you're talking about the cartels, that's a totally different story.
Yeah.
Cartels are a completely different story because they don't operate from America. They operate from Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, etc., and they just send people to America. So it's completely different.
They, I mean, with Pablo Escobar, how much money did this guy, how much was he printing? How much money?
Billions.
Yeah?
Yeah. Gotta be.
Yeah.
Gotta be. Must have been one of the richest men on earth.
Yeah.
Just obviously wouldn't be listed in the Forbes 500 for obvious reasons.
Yeah. The Frauds 500.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's an interesting story with Escobar. Is in the area where he lived.
Hippopotamuses. Okay,
Okay,
fire
you
away.
know this story.
Yeah, the hungry hippos.
Yeah, because he kept hippos in his estate,
Yeah.
and when he was taken down, the authorities failed to like contain the hippos, and they just like set into the environment, and now there's just like wild hippos in that part of Colombia.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And they're pretty dangerous hippos.
Oh, big time, big time.
Why did he keep? Did he just like animals?
When you're rich, you keep exotic
Yeah.
animals. That's just how it is. It's
Yeah.
like how you've got parakeets around London
Yeah.
because some rich guy imported a bunch of parakeets and he messed up.
Wasn't that
and let them
story
go.
about Jimi Hendrix? He released a couple of parakeets.
I don't know if it was. I don't know who it
about-
was. It might have been Jimi Hendrix. I don't know.
No, I mean,
I don't know who
there's a
it was,
story
but
of
it was just some rich guy who like brought them over and he
you
like
see
let
them
go.
around, you know,
Yeah.
in Windsor Great Park or.
Well, I see 'em
or
around here.
wherever. Yeah,
I see them around here.
yeah,
They're just native to London now because they compete with pigeons.
yeah. But what Pablo Escobar?
Mm-hmm.
He had a zoo. Obviously, Steve Harvey calls it giraffe money. When you got so much money like Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
you can afford to buy a giraffe.
Yeah.
I mean, many people wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah.
I want
yeah.
to buy a giraffe. Where do I go? So,
Yeah.
you know, like Pablo Escobar and, you know, people like that. You know, what else do you do with your money?
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, I mean, like going back to like mafias, but also, I mean, cartels have this as well. Is they wield a lot of political influence too. I mean, a lot of the United States war effort in the Second World War was run by the mafia. The United States, both the army and the navy, enlisted the support of mafiosos. I mean, there was this massive German spy ring in America because America had a very large German population. There were loads of German spies in there, and the mafia was actually instrumental in rooting out these spy agencies, especially the Jewish mafia. Go figure, because you know the Jewish mafia were the easiest to convince to get rid of the Nazis. Yeah. But all the mafias they were contracted by the United States intelligence to find and root out German spies. They played a part. And when we invaded Sicily in 43, obviously there's a strong mafia presence there, and the mafia fought alongside British and American soldiers against the Germans and the fascists. And they wielded extreme political influence. And I mean, we'll get onto this next episode. So that's a teaser for next episode. But the mafia was instrumental in getting JFK elected, and in my opinion, I think they killed him.
Really?
Yeah, in my opinion. Yeah.
So that's this world's shortest podcast about JFK.
Yeah.
The mafia were instrumental.
You'll hear more, but that's a teaser for next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mafia was extremely politically influential.
Yeah.
They were huge.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, but, you know, all these films, and listen, if you're having films made about you,
you've made it.
You've made it,
Yeah.
you know, either positive or negative, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You've made
yeah.
it, you know, you're notorious.
Well, the mafia denies that there is a mafia. They don't like it. There's a very good show on Paramount. It's called The Offer. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's about the making of The Godfather.
Okay.
Because when they were making it, like the mafia found out that they were making it,
Right.
and they like approached like the people like Paramount Studios, and they said, "Oh, you've got to like have this and this and this. You can't call it the mafia, you know." Because they were literally saying like, "Oh, there's no such thing as a mafia. It doesn't exist. So it's a myth."
Yeah.
And it's like anti-Italian discrimination and stuff. And they made like a big thing of it, and the Paramount Studios had to like work alongside the mafia, because if they pissed off the mafia, well, you know, at the start of The Godfather, where he wakes up with a dead horse's head, you know, they'd end up like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But Don Corleone?
Yeah.
What do you know about him?
Don Corleone?
Yeah.
I'm pretty
From
sure
The Godfather.
it's fictional.
Fictional?
Yeah. Godfather's not real.
Okay, it's not real.
It's one of the ones that's fictional, yeah.
Okay.
It's based on a book.
Okay, it's based on a book.
But the book was written from the real life experiences of someone who was like from that world, but he just like based it off his experiences. It wasn't actually like a real story.
But what a story.
Oh, big time.
And Marlon Brando.
Well, yeah. He was very difficult, apparently, I heard.
Yeah.
Well, he's always been difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's really good in that. what's his name? Oh, I'm drawing a blank. The guy, he made his debut in The Godfather.
Yeah, it's Al Pacino.
That's it. I don't know why I drew a blank on that, but yeah. Al Pacino. Great actor.
Yeah, the Italian American actors, eh?
Yeah. Hey, I'm walking here.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Give me all you got.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing films, and the thing is, the generations are still watching these films.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable, timeless classics.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. But so that's fictional.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's fictional. Yeah.
Great bit of fiction. Sure. Great bit of fiction.
Yeah, very, very.
Directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Wow, amazing films. Have you seen all of them?
No, I've seen the first one fully. I've seen like half of the second one. I hadn't seen the third.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite funny actually, because you get these sort of modern Italian Americans who are involved with the mafia and stuff, and even though they are technically Italian American, they're Italian descent, it goes back generations to the point where they have like nothing in common with Italy anymore. And you get things like, they call it like there's like this dish in Italy. It's like I can't remember how to pronounce it in Italian.
It's called pasta.
No, I'm talking
spaghetti.
The Italian Americans, they call it gabagool.
Really?
They call it gabagool, but I don't know. That's not how you pronounce it in Italy. But I forget how you're actually meant to pronounce it. But they're like, oh, give me the
Italian
gabagool.
Flintstones.
Yeah, I don't know.
Gabagool.
Gabagool.
Yeah. No, what does it consist of?
I don't even know. It's like some
never even heard of that.
It's like some traditional dish. It's like meat and like, I think like spaghetti or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't actually know, but I just know like because I got an Italian American friend who like talks about it a lot, and it's so funny like these.
Sorry to interrupt you. What do you call an Italian with a rubber toe?
I don't know.
Roberto.
Roberto.
Sorry. Go on.
This guy.
Yeah. Needs shooting.
But yeah, these the thing is, especially with these mafiosos, is because of the tradition. They're very traditional people. They still do, the whole like kissing the ring and stuff.
Yeah.
And they have to do it like at some point. They do like this pilgrimage back to Italy, and they these days they find themselves just completely out of depth, out of their depth, because they don't know Italian.
Yeah.
And they get like these identity crises, and they're like, it's like they're freaking out.
Yeah.
And like their identity now is like, they're still very proud like Italian Americans, but it's superficial. It's completely superficial.
Yeah.
And they're more like English people than they are Italians.
Yeah.
But they just like stick to it. I mean, it's the same with Irish Americans as well. They have the exact same issue.
Yeah.
And they get like these identity crises.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. And what was that dish you mentioned?
Gabagool.
And what was significant about that, did you say?
Oh, it was just like an example. Nothing significant about it. It's just like, I think they mention it a lot in The Sopranos and stuff. It was just an example of like the cultural difference between Italian Americans and actual Italians. I mean, actual Italians hate Italian Americans.
Really?
Yeah. They despise them.
They're not traditional.
Yeah, well, it's because these Italian Americans are like presenting themselves as like real Italians and like being all traditional and part of the culture and stuff. But they're not. They don't connect at all with actual Italians.
They don't know their roots.
Yeah, exactly. But they pretend they do. And they say, "Oh, I'm not American. I'm Italian." And then they go over to Italy and they don't know anything. And it really annoys actual Italian people. Hate them.
Okay. That's great. Listen, that has been so interesting today, Merf.
Thank
you. Thanks for shedding some light on, the mafia. You look as if you're dressed, you're part of...
I could be mafia. A mafioso, couldn't I?
Yeah.
I put the fedora back on, the classic mafioso fedora.
Yeah.
What's the skinny?
Yeah. You got a shooter on you?
Well, they wouldn't say shooter. They'd say like, I don't know, like piece or something.
Okay.
You got a piece?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like doing I can do the 20s
sound a bit like
version.
The penguin there from Batman.
Well, obviously based on mafiosos.
Yeah.
What's the skinny? Hey, Fat Tony.
Yeah.
What's the jig?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, listen, thanks for tuning in to the Irf and Merf show.
Merf and Irf show.
Okay. Tune in next time to our next episode, guys.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for watching.
Thank you for
Peace
watching.
out.